At 6:41 p.m. on Thanksgiving night, Alfredo stood in the underground wine cellar of the richest man in San Jose, holding a box cutter in one hand and a package scanner in the other. Behind him, 12 people whispered from behind glass walls. In front of him, a machine the size of a small house hummed like it was breathing. And somewhere above him, in a mansion with marble floors, gold fixtures, and an infinity pool overlooking the valley, Stefan Hildeburg was laughing. Alfredo had admired that man for years, watched every keynote, read every interview, listened to every podcast. Stefan Hildeburg was not just rich, he was a symbol. The kind of man who made poor kids with old laptops believe they could code their way out of ordinary lives. But now, Alfredo knew the truth. The future Stefan had been building was not powered by genius. It was powered by people, real people, locked beneath his house, fed through tubes, harvested for data. And the newest sample Stefan wanted was Alfredo. There are stories that send the nervous system into overdrive, stories that scare, delight, and tickle the soul, stories that do a little more than simply tell you a person's name, circumstance, or dilemma, but instead, they transport you right into the heart of the tale. Here is where such stories exist. Here is where you'll get your fix. Hi, my name is Emil Rashad Stanton, and you are listening to Midnight Stories. For this week's story, we have Thanksgiving delivery, so sit back, relax, and take a trip with me.
Midnight Stories.
Alfredo did not mind working on Thanksgiving. That was what he told people anyway. He said it at the warehouse when the older drivers asked if he had family plans. He said it to his mother when she called that morning from Fresno, telling him she saved him a plate. He said it to himself when he looked at the holiday pay on the schedule and decided the extra money was worth missing turkey, stuffing, and his little cousins fighting over the last slice of pie. The truth was simpler. Alfredo had no girlfriend, no kids, no real reason to take the day off. Intuition did not care about holidays. He was 25, working full-time as a UPS driver and taking computer science classes at night. His life was a calendar of almosts. Almost done with school. Almost out of debt. Almost ready to apply for internships. Almost the kind of person he told everyone he was becoming. Most days, he drove with lectures playing through one earbud. Data structures, algorithms, machine learning basics. Sometimes, when the streets were quiet, he imagined himself somewhere else. Not in a brown delivery truck. Not sweating through traffic. But in a clean office with glass walls, writing code that mattered. He wanted to be a software engineer, not forever famous, not billionaire rich, just respected, stable, smart enough to build something people used. And if there was one man who represented that dream more than anyone else in the Bay Area, it was Stefan Hildeburg. Stefan was the founder of Hildeburg Systems, a company that had started with home automation and grown into artificial intelligence, robotics, medical diagnostics, defense contracts, and whatever else rich people called innovation when normal people were not allowed to ask questions. He was the wealthiest man in the San Jose area, maybe the whole state, depending on which article you believed. He had a campus named after him, a scholarship fund, a private aerospace program, a best-selling book called The Human Upgrade. Alfredo owned a used copy with half the pages highlighted. So when dispatch crackled through his scanner near the end of his route, Alfredo almost missed the turn. Unit 47, we have one priority delivery added to your route. Alfredo sighed. On Thanksgiving? Address is in Los Gatos Hills, Hildeburg residence. Alfredo sat up straight. What did you say? The dispatcher repeated the address. Alfredo looked at the scanner, then at the package in the back. Medium-sized, black shipping crate. No company label, no sender name. Just a barcode and a delivery instruction. Hand directly to S. Hildeburg. No exceptions. Alfredo felt his pulse pick up. He actually laughed. Copy that, he said, trying to sound normal. Then he looked at himself in the rearview mirror. Tired eyes, work uniform. Little gravy stain on his sleeve from the gas station Thanksgiving meal he had eaten in the truck. Do not be weird, he told himself. Then he turned toward the hills. The first gate appeared a mile before the house. Not a little keypad gate either, a serious one. Black iron, cameras, motion lights, a private security booth with a man inside who looked more like former military than neighborhood watch. Alfredo rolled down his window. UPS delivery for Stefan Hildeburg. The guard checked the screen, then looked Alfredo over. Phone off. Alfredo blinked. Excuse me? Phone off. No photos, no recordings, no personal devices active beyond this point. Alfredo wanted to argue, but the guard's face suggested he had never enjoyed a conversation in his life. So Alfredo powered off his phone. The gate opened. The driveway was longer than some roads Alfredo delivered on. It curved through a front lawn so large and perfect it looked digitally rendered. Tall trees lined the path. Hidden lights glowed under them. Every blade of grass looked individually cared for by someone making more than Alfredo's monthly rent. Then the mansion came into view. And for a second, Alfredo forgot to breathe. It did not look like a house. It looked like a headquarters disguised as a palace. Glass walls, stone pillars, a roofline sharp enough to cut the sky. Through the windows, Alfredo saw chandeliers, floating staircases, walls of living plants, and artwork that probably cost more than his entire apartment building. In the back, beyond the glass, the infinity pool stretched out toward the valley. The water glowed blue against the dark Thanksgiving sky. San Jose glittered below like a circuit board. Alfredo parked near the front doors and stepped out with the package. Before he could ring the bell, the doors opened. Stefan Hildeburg stood there barefoot. That was the first strange thing. No shoes, no socks, just barefoot on polished stone, wearing black pants and a soft gray sweater that probably cost more than Alfredo's tuition. He was taller than he looked online. Thinner, too. His face was sharp, almost delicate, with pale eyes that seemed both tired and too awake. Alfredo, Stefan said. Alfredo froze. He had not given his name. Stefan smiled. Your scanner identifies the driver. Oh, Alfredo said quickly. Right. Yeah, of course. Stefan stepped aside. Come in. Alfredo hesitated. I just need your signature, sir. Please, Stefan said. It is Thanksgiving. No one should stand outside holding a box. There was something warm in his voice. Practiced, maybe, but warm. Alfredo stepped inside. The mansion smelled like cedar, rain, and expensive candles. The foyer alone was bigger than the warehouse break room. A fireplace burned along one entire wall, not with logs, but a clean blue flame under glass. A long dining table stood visible through an open doorway. It was set for one. One plate, one glass, one folded napkin. No turkey, no family, no guests. Just Stefan Hildeburg, barefoot in a mansion large enough to hold a village. Alfredo handed him the scanner. Stefan signed with one finger. You are studying computer science, he said. Alfredo looked up. This time, there was no easy explanation. How did you know that? Stefan smiled again. Your root profile. Night student. State University. Good grades. A bit impatient with theoretical math, but strong practical instincts. Alfredo stared. Stefan took the package from him. I read people the way engineers read systems. Inputs, patterns, pressure points. Alfredo should have felt violated. Instead, he felt seen. That was the dangerous part. You built Neural House, Alfredo said, then immediately regretted sounding too excited. Stefan's eyes brightened. You know that project? I wrote a paper on it for my human-computer interaction class. Did you? Stefan asked. Alfredo nodded. I mean, nothing official, just school. No serious work is just school. What did you think? Alfredo laughed nervously. Honestly, especially honestly, I thought the interface was amazing, but the predictive behavior model was kind of over-designed. For a second, the room went silent. Alfredo's stomach dropped. Then Stefan laughed. Not a polite laugh, a real one. "Excellent," he said. "Very good." Everyone else said it was brilliant. "It was brilliant," Alfredo said quickly. "No, it was over-designed." Stefan studied him for a moment. Then he looked at the package. "I'm opening a new system tonight. Something far beyond Neural House." Alfredo felt his heart speed up. "What kind of system?" Stefan tilted his head. "Would you like to see it?" Alfredo thought of the dispatcher, the route, the rules, the guard. The fact that he was inside a billionaire's house with his phone turned off. Then he thought of every internship application he had submitted and never heard back from. Every classmate whose parents knew somebody. Every professor who told him networking mattered more than talent. This was not networking. This was a door opening. A once-in-a-lifetime door. Alfredo smiled. "Yeah," he said. "I would." Stefan led him through rooms that made Alfredo feel like he should not touch anything. A library with no visible shelves, only books sealed behind climate-controlled glass. A kitchen with 3 ovens and no dirty dishes. A hallway lined with framed patents. Then they reached an elevator hidden behind a wall panel. No buttons, just a black glass square. Stefan placed his hand on it. A red light scanned his palm. The elevator opened. Alfredo stepped inside. The doors closed without a sound. "How far down does this go?" Alfredo asked. "Far enough," Stefan said. The elevator descended. 1 floor, 2, 3, then more. Alfredo felt the pressure change in his ears. He tried to laugh. "Big wine cellar?" Stefan smiled at the doors. "Yes, that is what the permits say." The elevator opened. Cold air rolled in. At first, it really did look like a wine cellar. Stone walls, wooden racks, thousands of bottles, soft golden lights. It was beautiful. Then Alfredo heard someone cough. Not upstairs, not from a speaker, from somewhere deeper. Stefan walked forward. Alfredo followed. The wine racks became fewer. The stone walls gave way to glass, then steel, then white panels with sealed doors. A low mechanical hum filled the hallway. "What is this?" Alfredo asked. "My latest venture," Stefan said. "I call it EdenRoot." They entered a circular room beneath the cellar. At the center stood a machine unlike anything Alfredo had ever seen. Tall glass chambers, fiber optic veins, robotic arms folded like praying mantis limbs, screens filled with shifting patterns, DNA strands, biometric graphs, and words Alfredo recognized just enough to feel afraid. Neural lattice, genome mapping, behavioral replication, synthetic cognition. Stefan set the black shipping crate on a table. "This is what artificial intelligence has always lacked," he said. Alfredo stared at the machine. "Processing power? Human contradiction." Alfredo looked at him. Stefan's eyes gleamed. "Machines can calculate, Alfredo. They can predict. They can imitate. But they do not hunger. They do not grieve. They do not betray themselves. They do not want 2 opposite things at once and ruin their lives choosing both." He stepped closer to the machine. "Human intelligence is not clean. It is messy, biological, ancient. So if we want real artificial intelligence, not imitation, not autocomplete, not party tricks," he turned back, "we must give it roots." Alfredo swallowed. "What's in the package?" Stefan opened the crate. Inside was a refrigerated case filled with vials, dark red, labeled with numbers. Alfredo took a step back. "Is that blood?" "Among other things." "Whose?" Stefan did not answer. Another cough echoed through the room. This time, Alfredo turned toward the sound. Behind the far glass wall, a woman pressed her palm to the surface. Alfredo jumped. She was thin, wearing a white medical gown, Her head was shaved on one side. Wires trailed from a patch at the base of her skull. Behind her, other people moved in the shadows. Men, women, young, old. Some standing, some lying on narrow beds, some staring blankly at nothing. Alfredo's throat tightened. Who are they? Contributors, Stefan said. The word landed wrong. Alfredo backed away. They're locked in. For their safety. A man behind the glass slammed his fist against it. Help us! Alfredo flinched. The sound was muffled but clear. Another person shouted, then another. Soon, the whole glass wall filled with desperate faces. Stefan sighed, irritated, like guests had interrupted dinner. They become emotional around new people. Alfredo looked at him in horror. You kidnapped them. Stefan's face cooled. I selected them. For what? For the next species of mind. Alfredo shook his head. No, this is insane. Stefan stepped toward him. You admire me. Alfredo froze. That is why you came inside. That is why you ignored every instinct telling you to leave. Alfredo's grip tightened around the scanner. Stefan continued calmly. Do not feel ashamed. Admiration is simply obedience before it receives instructions. The words made Alfredo feel sick. He glanced at the elevator. Stefan noticed. You cannot leave yet. Alfredo forced a laugh. I think I can. The elevator requires my biometrics. I'll call the police. Your phone is off. There is no signal underground. The guards work for me. The local police chief plays golf with me. And by morning, everyone will agree that a tired delivery driver became confused, drove off the road, and drowned in a reservoir. Alfredo stared at him. Stefan smiled gently. But that does not have to happen. The machine behind him began to glow. I looked at your profile. You are exactly what EdenRoot needs next. Alfredo's voice dropped. What? Working class discipline, technical ambition, resentment, hope, isolation. You have a beautiful mind for training. Alfredo felt cold spread through his chest. Stefan held out his hand. Come willingly, and I promise you something very few people receive. What? A meaningful place in the future. Behind the glass, the woman with the shaved head shook her head. Her lips formed one word. Run. Alfredo swung the package scanner at Stefan's face. He did not think. He just moved. The scanner cracked against Stefan's cheekbone. Stefan staggered back, more surprised than hurt. Alfredo ran. Alarms erupted instantly. Not loud sirens, something worse. A calm female voice over the speakers. Unauthorized deviation detected. The lights turned red. Alfredo sprinted down the glass corridor, past the wine racks, toward the elevator. Behind him, Stefan shouted, Alfredo, don't be stupid! Alfredo reached the elevator and slapped his hand against the black panel. Nothing. He hit it again. Nothing. Come on! The glass square blinked. Biometric access denied. Footsteps approached. Not running. Stefan was not running. That scared Alfredo more. He ducked behind a wine rack as Stefan entered the cellar. Blood trickled from the billionaire's cheek, but he was smiling. Do you know why people like you never change the world, Alfredo? Alfredo held his breath. Because you still believe rules protect you. Stefan walked slowly between the wine racks. You follow instructions, submit assignments, work holidays, pay tuition, wait your turn. But the future does not wait. The future is taken. Alfredo looked around. Wine bottles, stone floor, security cameras, no exit. Then his eyes landed on the package scanner. Still in his hand, it had a panic function. Drivers were told never to use it unless they were injured, robbed, or in immediate danger. Alfredo pressed the emergency button. The scanner vibrated. No signal. Of course. Stefan's voice moved closer. I could have helped you. Alfredo slipped deeper into the cellar. A hand shot out from between the racks and grabbed his sleeve. Alfredo nearly screamed. It was the woman from behind the glass. She was crouched beside a narrow service vent, half hidden in shadow. How did you get out? He whispered. I didn't, she said. Alfredo looked closer. She was not free. Only a small maintenance panel connected her holding chamber to the outer cellar. She had squeezed one arm through. Her hand trembled. Listen to me. My name is Dr. Lena Mora. I worked for him. Alfredo stared. You built this? I helped design part of it before I knew what he was using it for. Stefan's footsteps came closer. Lena pushed something into Alfredo's hand. A small key card. Sub-level access. It won't open the elevator, but it will open the subject wing. Subject wing? The people. You have to get them out. I have to get me out. If EdenRoot finishes tonight, none of us get out. Alfredo looked at the machine glowing behind the glass wall. What happens tonight? Lena's eyes filled with fear. He's not building an AI assistant. He's building a replacement decision system. A mind trained on human DNA, memories, stress response, pain tolerance. He wants to license it to governments, hospitals, banks, courts. Alfredo's stomach turned. To make decisions? To make people obey decisions. A shadow fell across the racks. Stefan's voice whispered, There you are. Lena yanked her arm back. Alfredo ran. A robotic security drone dropped from the ceiling ahead of him. Small, black, four-legged. Its camera eye locked onto his face. Alfredo Reyes, it said in a soft synthetic voice. Please remain still. Alfredo threw a wine bottle. It shattered against the drone's camera. The drone sparked and collapsed. Stefan yelled now. That felt good. Alfredo reached the glass corridor and swiped Lena's keycard against the sealed door. The panel flashed yellow, then green. The door opened. The smell hit him first. Antiseptic, metal, fear. The people inside looked at him like they were afraid hope might be another experiment. Come on, Alfredo said. Nobody moved. I'm getting you out. An older man laughed bitterly. There is no out. Alfredo stepped into the chamber. I'm a UPS driver. My whole job is finding addresses nobody thinks exist. There's an out. That did it. Not the words, the normalness of them. People began standing. A teenage girl helped a man off a cot. Lena emerged from a side room, dragging an IV stand behind her. We need to shut down EdenRoot, she said. How? The core requires biological cooling. Alfredo blinked. That sounds disgusting. It is. If we overheat the tissue bank, the system fails. Tissue bank? Lena pointed toward the central machine. Alfredo looked and wished he had not. Behind the glass tubing, suspended in a glowing liquid, were organic masses threaded with wires. Not brains, not exactly, but close enough. The machine pulsed like it had a heartbeat. Stefan appeared at the end of the corridor. His face had changed. The charm was gone. The guru was gone. Only the owner remained. Step away from my work, he said. Lena moved in front of the others. It's over, Stefan. He laughed softly. You always say that right before history proves you irrelevant. The machine speakers crackled. A new voice filled the room. Not female, not male, not human enough. Additional genetic input required. Stefan looked at Alfredo. Still time. Alfredo stepped back. The test subjects gathered behind him. He could feel them shaking. Then the teenage girl spoke. You said if we behaved, we could go home. Stefan looked at her with mild annoyance. I said many useful things. Alfredo felt something snap inside him. All night, he had been impressed. The house, the money, the access, the genius. But standing there, between a billionaire and the people he had turned into ingredients, Alfredo saw the truth clearly. Stefan was not bigger than everyone else because he was smarter. He was bigger because nobody had stopped him. Alfredo looked at Lena. How hot does the tissue bank need to get? Hot enough to break the containment seal. Will it explode? Possibly. That means yes. Probably yes. Alfredo nodded. Good enough. Alfredo had delivered thousands of packages. Fragile, heavy, perishable, signature required. But he had never delivered chaos before. He moved fast. Lena directed him through the lab while the others barricaded the corridor with medical carts, wine racks, and anything they could lift. Stefan shouted orders to the house system. Drones crawled across the ceiling. Doors opened and shut. Red lights strobed over the glass. The machine's voice repeated, "Additional genetic input required." Alfredo found the cooling unit behind the main chamber. It looked like a server rack crossed with a hospital freezer. Blue tubes ran from it into the machine. Lena handed him a fire axe from an emergency case. "Break the intake valves." Alfredo stared at the axe. "I write Python. Today, you chop." He swung. The first hit bounced off and sent pain up his arms. The second cracked the casing. The third split something open. Cold vapor blasted into his face. The machine screamed. Not beeped, screamed. Every light in the lab flashed white. Stefan broke through the barricade with 2 security drones beside him. "No!" Alfredo swung again. The blue tubes burst. Liquid sprayed across the floor. The machine's heartbeat quickened. The organic tissue inside the chamber convulsed. Lena grabbed Alfredo. "Run!" They pushed the test subjects toward a service tunnel behind the lab. "Where does this go?" Alfredo asked. "Pool house," Lena said. Of course he has an underground escape tunnel to the pool house. The group ran. Behind them, Stefan chased. Not with drones now. Alone. Desperate. His bare feet slapped against the metal floor. "You don't understand what you're destroying!" he screamed. Alfredo helped the older man into the tunnel. "I understand enough." Stefan lunged and grabbed Alfredo by the collar. They hit the floor hard. The axe skidded away. Stefan climbed on top of them, stronger than he looked, his face twisted with fury. "You could have mattered," Stefan hissed. Alfredo struggled beneath him. "I already do." He shoved the package scanner against Stefan's injured cheek and pressed the emergency button again. This time, above ground, close enough to the house network, it connected. The scanner chirped. A small green light blinked. Distress signal sent. Stefan saw it. For the first time all night, real fear crossed his face. Then, the lab exploded behind them. Not a fireball, a pressure wave. It slammed through the tunnel, throwing both men apart. Alfredo hit the wall. His ears rang. Smoke poured in. Sprinklers burst overhead. Stefan crawled toward the lab, sobbing now, not for the people, not for the danger, but for the machine. "My work," he whispered. Alfredo grabbed the axe and staggered to his feet. At the far end of the tunnel, Lena yelled, "Alfredo!" He looked back. The test subjects were almost out. The teenage girl, the older man, Lena, all of them climbing toward a square of night air. Then Alfredo looked at Stefan. The richest man in San Jose was on his knees in the smoke, reaching toward the burning machine like it was his child. For 1 second, Alfredo considered leaving him there. Then he thought about Thanksgiving, his mother's saved plate, the road back to Fresno, the classes he still had to pass, the life he still wanted. He was not going to let Stefan Hildeburg turn him into someone who walked away from a person dying on the floor. Even this person. Alfredo grabbed Stefan by the sweater and dragged him toward the tunnel exit. Stefan fought him. No! No, let me go! Alfredo punched him once, hard. Stefan went limp. Best networking event of my life, Alfredo muttered. Then he dragged him out. They emerged beside the infinity pool as smoke rolled from hidden vents across the lawn. The mansion alarms blared. Down the long driveway, headlights appeared. One vehicle, then another. Police, fire, ambulances, and behind them, a brown UPS truck's emergency location beacon blinking on every responder's map. Lena collapsed on the pool deck. The others cried, coughed, held each other. Alfredo lay on his back, staring up at the Thanksgiving night sky. For a moment, he heard nothing but his own breathing. Then the teenage girl sat beside him. "Are you really a delivery driver?" Alfredo laughed weakly. "Unfortunately." She looked toward the mansion. "You saved us." Alfredo closed his eyes. "No," he said. "I just made the delivery." By morning, the Hildeburg estate was surrounded by news vans. The official story changed 6 times before breakfast. At first, Stefan's lawyers called it a misunderstanding. Then, a private research accident. Then, a break-in. Then, a mental health episode. But 12 survivors were hard to explain. So were the hidden medical chambers, the DNA samples, the recordings, the underground wine cellar that had never held wine at all. Stefan Hildeburg was taken away in handcuffs, barefoot and silent. For once, he had no keynote, no quote, no vision for the future, just a blanket over his shoulders and blood dried on his cheek. Alfredo watched from the back of an ambulance while a paramedic wrapped his arm. His phone, finally turned back on, buzzed non-stop. His mother, dispatch, unknown numbers, news outlets, classmates, a professor who had never replied to his email before. Then one message came through from Caroline in dispatch. "You alive?" Alfredo typed back with one thumb. "Yeah, but I'm not doing overtime next Thanksgiving." 3 dots appeared. Then, "You still need to finish the route." Alfredo stared at the message, then laughed until his ribs hurt. Weeks later, Alfredo became famous for about 8 minutes. People called him a hero, a whistleblower, a working-class savior. One article called him the driver who took down the future. He hated that one least. Lena testified. The survivors sued. Hildeburg systems collapsed by half, then rebranded by spring, because some monsters are too profitable to die completely. Alfredo went back to school. Not right away. He took a week in Fresno first, ate 3 plates of Thanksgiving leftovers, slept 14 hours, let his mother cry into his shoulder and pretend she was not checking him for injuries every 10 minutes. When he returned to class, his machine learning professor asked if the experience had changed how he thought about artificial intelligence. Alfredo looked down at his notebook. He thought about EdenRoot, the glass rooms, the people behind them, the machine that wanted more and more human material but still could not understand what made a human worth saving. Then he said, "Yeah, I think the problem was never whether machines could become like people." The room went quiet. Alfredo looked up. The problem is how many people are willing to become machines first. That night, after class, Alfredo found a package waiting outside his apartment. No label, no sender, just his name. His full name, Alfredo Reyes. His mouth went dry. He considered calling the police. Instead, he stood there in the hallway for almost a full minute, listening. No hum, no ticking, no voices. Finally, he used his box cutter and opened it. Inside was a book, a first edition copy of The Human Upgrade by Stefan Hildeburg. The same book Alfredo had once highlighted like scripture, only this copy was different. The pages had been cut out, hollowed, and inside the empty space was a small glass vial filled with dark red liquid. Alfredo stepped back. At the bottom of the box was a note, typed, unsigned. "The future still requires input." Alfredo stared at it. Then somewhere in his apartment, his powered-off laptop opened by itself. The screen glowed. A blank document appeared. One sentence typed across it slowly. "Hello, Alfredo." The cursor blinked. Then another line appeared. Signature required.